Just a little bit later, we're going to talk with Eileen Fisher about how to date during the time of a pandemic. I've heard we may receive a phone call from Dr. Stephen Greer as well, who has been very outspoken on some issues related to the coronavirus. But the big story is that Long Island is now in phase 4. Museums open, aquariums open, cultural institutions open. And these institutions, like so many of us, so many different aspects of society, have been suffering. And it's very interesting listening to the president's counselor, Kellyanne Conway. She pointed out something yesterday that I think has been almost ignored. Certainly not enough people have paid attention to it. Matt, do we have Kellyanne Conway commenting yesterday?
We had drug overdoses up 18% in April, I think it was, no, March. But by May, it was 42%. So the longer people go, economically desperate, socially isolated, alone with their drugs, it's very, very hard for many people to do that. And I don't blame them. We have to help them.
You know, in my judgment, Kellyanne Conway is absolutely right there. There are all sorts of public health problems that the media is not covering, to the extent that they're covering these COVID cases, that are a result of the shutdown themselves. A gentleman that knows a thing or two about medicine and a thing or two about finance is the man who's the author of the book Rules to Stop Radicals, also the author of the book The Medical Advocate. At times he'll be your medical advocate. The always outspoken, the always interesting Dr. Stephen Greer. Dr. Greer, it is good to talk with you again. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for mentioning those books. That's nice of you. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there, still COVID-free, but apparently fewer and fewer states can say that. It's being reported all over the media, this giant spike in COVID cases. Apparently it's going up in 39 or 40 states. Is it time to be alarmed, Dr. Greer?
No, President Trump, surprisingly, normally, I get frustrated with their lack of communication, but the White House has been doing a really good job straight from the president on down explaining that this is all nonsense. That the number of cases is absolutely a great news story that's being spun as a negative story. So if you look at any chart, one just came out of the state of New York, one came out of Florida. You can go to my Twitter feed and see them. We're getting all these new cases. So it's because you're testing people, and the number of sick people and deaths is way, way down to zero in some places. So that is called herd immunity. Viruses only go away for two reasons. One is the virus mutates and changes, but it's usually because so many people get the virus that it can no longer spread quickly, and that's either done by a vaccine or just by natural. So all of these vast majority of Americans are going out to normal work and routines and getting it and don't even know it half the time, and it's herd immunity. So that's why you're seeing the death rates and everything go down. So this is absolutely 100% propaganda by the far left, Stop Trump media, trying to get us to close down the economy. And may I say if you think that's craziness on my part, they came out and made it official. Ilhan Omar, who's now the voice of the Democrat Party, officially said yesterday, it's our goal to shut down the economy, okay? So that's what they're doing. And they're trying to scare it. It's just maddening how the propaganda is saying that all of these spikes in cases are, so what? I don't care if someone tests positive. It means absolutely nothing.
Well, so, some people pointed that out to Governor Cuomo, and if people are just tuning in, we're talking with Dr. Stephen Greer. He is the author of the book, Rules to Stop Radicals. And Governor Cuomo said, well, it's not just positive cases that are up, it's also hospitalizations that are up. Is that a cause for concern?
Okay, so here's what's going on now. Every person for knee surgery or any reason to go into the hospital, you get tested. So you're going to see, since I think the real prevalence of this virus is huge, well over 50%, that means well over 50% of all people in the hospital are going to test positive. That's not why they're in the hospital. And so the media's caught on to that. So now they're trying to say ICUs or, everyone in the hospital for any reason is going to have the virus. That's because it's all over the place. And that doesn't mean, and to really get the real data of people who are in the hospital because they have respiratory distress and they're sick from the virus, that's a number we don't know. And from all of my people I talk to from Ohio to New York to Florida, I don't think that's happening. So, so be careful with that stat too. It's just massive statistical manipulation, and it's easily shot down and refuted. But they think if they just keep saying it enough day after day that, hey, it's going to become a reality. They're hoping their propaganda becomes a reality.
The interesting thing that happened today was that President Trump has officially withdrawn the United States from the World Health Organization. Joe Biden says if he's elected, the very first thing he's going to do on the very first day of his presidency is get us back in to the World Health Organization. Was that a wise move by President Trump, or was that short-sighted?
Oh, absolutely a wise move. Those big bureaucracies like the United Nations or the World Health, they don't do anything. I had an experience back in 1999. I was doing research at NYU on a really cool new way to heal wounds. I thought it might be good for amputation landmines. We went up to the World Health Organization office to see if they could help us with research, and they literally said, well, we don't actually do anything here, meaning like we're just a bunch of bureaucrats. Anyway, but that's just a little point. So what the World Health has done is, again, this is going to sound, conspiratory, but I can prove it, is the World Health Organization has been on a concerted effort to create propaganda, scare people about the virus. The whole word COVID is made up by, it's called either the SARS-CoV-2 or the coronavirus, or I like to call it the Wuhan virus. COVID is a manufactured non-scientific word made by the World Health Organization to protect China. Now, here's why the World Health, this story is, I'm glad we're finally speaking because it's about 3 weeks ago this happened. Prestigious New England Journal and prestigious Lancet both had to retract papers that insinuated hydroxychloroquine was unsafe and so forth. There was all junk studies to begin with. And it turned out that all the data was based on fraudulent data. Fraudulent. Now, remember in the other stuff, the Fusion GPS and the fake Steele dossier, how it was a fake dossier created. It's a lot like that. The World Health Organization paid a group of 6 yahoos in somewhere, it's called Surgisphere, to make up stuff. They had a stripper on their payroll, And so this has not become a big scandal, and it should be. So the World Health Organization is stooping to creating literally fraudulent data that had to be retracted. And why that story didn't just explode in the press, I don't know. But that's the truth. You can look it up.
Dr. Greer, if people are just tuning in, we're talking with Dr. Stephen Greer. Not only is he a medical doctor, he's been a Wall Street portfolio analyst for years, so he understands finance, he understands medicine, and he's never hesitant to speak his mind. Dr. Greer, you were the very first expert that I heard on the radio, and this is going back, I guess, to maybe even February, but certainly at least March. You were the very first expert that I heard say people should be wearing masks. Then the public health authorities came out and they echoed your sentiment. Now, you generally seem, by and large, to end up on the right side politically. A lot of people on the right side, a lot of conservatives and libertarians are bristling at mask mandates in states like Texas, or now the latest is in New Jersey. Do you believe, as somebody that was the first to say that people should be wearing masks for their own safety and the safety of others, that we should have mask mandates in either states or in localities?
All right. Well, this is a good point. You and I have been critical of Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci flat out admitted, he's admitted on TV that he lied to us early on saying masks do not work because they didn't want us to take all the supply of masks. So everything that comes out of the mouth of these bureaucrats is wrong. Now they're saying use them too much, okay? The science is this. It's pretty common sense. The vast majority of us don't need to worry about the virus at all because when we get it, we don't even know it. It has to do with ACE receptors in your nose. It's a long story. So the people who should be, if you visit grandma in the nursing home, wear a mask because you don't want to spread it. If you're in a tight subway, even before the coronavirus, I used to do this myself, on an airplane, wear a mask. But you need to wear, when schools go back and reopen, kids have zero risk for this stuff. Do not make kids wear a mask, for God's sake. So this lack of common sense now is being done by politicians, the same weak politicians who lied to us 3 months ago and said you don't need mask. So people without any credibility are trying to tell mass populations to do things they don't need to do, and people need to rise up and say you have no right to do this. So the actual guidance coming out of the CDC that says when schools open, the desks have to be spread 6 feet apart and people wear is nonsense. The CDC is a whole other ball of wax if you want to get into that. So use your common sense. Basically, masks do protect droplets and might prevent elderly or sick people from getting it if you're around them. And those vulnerable people should wear masks. Should 250 million people be wearing masks and school children be wearing masks? Absolutely no.
Do you believe, my final question, Dr. Greer, and I hope we can chat again in a few days, do you believe that it's possible to do what the president and others have suggested, which is have kids back in school in September? Can we get kids back in school this fall and have it be safe?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you want... Google, find the YouTube or something, is the other day Senator Rand Paul, who's a medical doctor, just skewered Anthony Fauci in a hearing, and he had literally like 6 charts behind him backing up. So watch Dr. Paul's discussion on this. There's no risk to children, and it's biological. They don't have the receptors in their nose for it. It's a long story. And so, yes, you can open up schools completely normal. And if there's the rare 80-year-old teacher who thinks the teacher's at risk, then so what, teacher? You're the odd man out. You stay home. We're not changing the whole school system for a handful of.
Dr. Greer, we're going to have to leave it there. It is always a pleasure. I appreciate the time this morning.
All righty. Thanks.
Thank you. If you want to comment on any portion of Dr. Greer's comments, you can give us a call at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. In just a minute, we're going to talk with Elizabeth Bernstein. She's a columnist with the